Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Julian here from Jawline Theory. Bit of a different video here today. I want to talk a little bit about an incident that happened today, and it's been happening more and more over the last, I'd say, year and a half, maybe 2 years. So some young guy, possibly I'd say about early 20s, comes up to me after my workout and says, "Hey man, I want to start a cycle." He's referring to gear. So he reaches into his pocket, pulls out what looks to be Winstrol and a few other pills. I know because I can read the label, and he's asking me for advice right there. And so I kind of turn to him. I say, "Well, where'd you get this?" You know, he told me he got it from some guy who knows another guy type thing. I say, okay. I guess he didn't want to snitch, and that's all good. You know, I'm not the police, but this is something that seems to be happening more and more. You know, guys have approached me in the gym, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, even guys my age, 49, who have said, "Hey man, I'm taking XYZ." And I guess they want to compare and, you know, want me to share, "Well, what do you take?" You know, I don't really take anything. You know, protein, creatine, that's about it. And I eat a lot. So I ended up talking to him, you know, and I'm not against gear. I have a few videos where I express how I feel about guys who take gear. It's your body. It's all good. But I think for a guy like him, the kind of results that he's looking for could easily be achieved just by eating well, training properly, getting your rest, you know, getting those meals. Because I had spoken to him about 2 months ago. He had approached me. He said, "Hey man, you look really good. What do you do to look that way?" And I told him, I said, basically it's all about like being consistent, eating well, training hard, doing the work, doing the right exercises, and essentially grinding. And so now, today, a few hours ago, to have him roll up on me and show me his gear stash, well, I kind of reminded him. I said, "Hey buddy, you know, like 2 months ago when I had asked you about like, what do you do? What do you eat? What do you do in terms of training?" It was subpar. You know, the guy told me that he ate 2 meals a day. He trained 4 times a week. His diet was pretty much hit or miss. And then I sort of interjected. I said, "Well, you know, okay, you were going to have to work on a couple things and, you know, up the caloric intake, start eating a lot more. I don't know what your program looks like. You're probably not training the way you should. You're probably not tapping into your intensity." But nonetheless, here he was. He believed that, you know, Winstrol and a few other things were going to transform him, give him the body that he wanted, right? So I told him about the list of side effects that he could potentially encounter, things like acne, aggression, hormonal changes, kidney problems, as I think there were orals and stuff like that. So I don't know if I deterred him from taking them, but I also reminded him that there are a lot of guys right now, young kids, taking this stuff, right? It's not like when we were in the teenage years in the 80s where, you know, gear was sort of frowned upon. Many of us lived through the Ben Johnson scandal. We had the Mike McGuire and Barry Bonds scandal. And we saw how these guys, these top pro athletes, were shamed, right? Some of them lost titles. They lost integrity. They were frowned upon in the media. And so that kind of always stuck with us Gen Xers, right? You just didn't take steroids. It was seen as a way of cheating, yada, yada, yada. I don't believe that's the case, but that's how it was sort of presented and marketing. And also the fact that, yes, it was illegal, you know, it's a banned substance, especially in the US. So nowadays, I just find that young kids, they don't have that barrier. They don't have that sort of like interpretation of gear. And it's sort of like a very easily accessible now. You can probably go on websites and order it, or you know some guy who knows a guy who can hook you up, and within 24 hours you have your whole gear stash with you, right? Again, this is something that I see more and more of, and this partly has a lot to do with the fact that now more than ever, a lot of stuff we see in fitness is just convoluted. We have the gym bros, we have the science community, everyone's like an expert talking about what you should and should not do when it comes to training. And so I think a lot of guys and girls are left confused. They don't know what to do when it comes to training. They don't know how to eat. They don't know what exercise sequence works the best, high volume versus low volume. All these upper lower splits, PPL, push legs and push pull legs and all this stuff. And it's like, man, things were not this complicated years ago. It seems that now the advent of social media and fitness experts online, everybody's confused. I think the only people who aren't are the older cats who kind of figured out what works for them and possibly what works for others. But a lot of the younger generation, they have to figure things out for themselves, and they're not willing to do the time. They're not willing to do the 10, 15 years of literally trial and error. This is how a lot of us learned our bodies. We learned what works for us, what were the best programs, what were the best methodologies for setting up a program, the best exercises. Some exercises work better than others, especially considering that we have different limb lengths, we have different lever lengths, things of that nature. And it takes a long time to figure out. And that time it takes is something I don't think the younger generation, Gen Z, or whatever you want to call it, are willing to sort of like do. They want the answers yesterday. They want to get jacked. They don't want to do the journey. It is a journey. This fitness thing is an absolute journey, right? So to go back to that incident that happened this morning, I basically told him, let's try to figure things out. Let's try to like sit down and go through a proper training protocol. Let's do some sort of like hypertrophy program where you can gain muscle, and let's get you eating the right foods. Yes, I know you work and everything. He actually works at the fitness center where I go to, but that shouldn't deter you from reaching your goal. Yeah, I'll let you guys know how it works out with the kid. But in closing, I just wanted to hop on here. And if any of you guys are thinking about hopping on gear, again, you guys are adults. I'm not like discouraging you guys, but there is ways of doing this and achieving a really good physique naturally. It might take you the extra 4 or 5 years. I think it takes about 5 to 7 years to really get a solid body naturally, natty, of course, like 100% natty, versus something you can probably do with gear in like 2.5 years, But I think at the end of it all, you'll be far more healthy. Also, not only do I do personal training outside in the real world, but if you guys ever want to sort of have a consultation, talk about your fitness goals, or just have me assess your body, let me know. Links are down below in the description. Maybe we can work together so that you can get the body you actually want. All right, we're going to do it safely and hopefully effectively. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this situation. Have you encountered, especially the older guys here, have you encountered guys who have come up to you at the gym requesting advice on gear and substances, and how did you treat the situation? Anyways, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye for now.